Hey, thanks, Christina, and hello, everyone. You have joined us for quite a few minutes already, and we're really excited that you're learning together with us so far. I'm Barnam Bora, and I lead dev advocacy here for Teams and Graph here at Microsoft. And yes, I'm joining you via the power and magic of Teams from right here down under here in Melbourne, Australia. Today, I'm being joined by a very special, extremely European, very Dutch partner in crime, all the way from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Make some in-meeting noise for senior dev advocate, former MVP, and Microsoft 365 developer community extraordinaire, Mr. Waldek Mastykarz.
Hi, everybody. With that, I have nothing else to add. Other than that we have brought here a group of folks who want to learn with us. So I'd like to give them a chance to say a few words about who they are, where they're watching from, and we'll take it from there.
Cool. I'll go first. My name's Donovan Brown. I live here in Houston, Texas, and I am a principal cloud advocate here at Microsoft.
Hi, I'm Julie Turner. I'm a partner with Praxis Consulting, and I am in southern New Hampshire in the United States.
My name is Abel, Principal Cloud Advocate and the DevOps Lead at Microsoft, and I live in Seattle, Washington.
Hi, I'm John Papa, and I'm also a cloud advocate, and I do a lot of web development out there and storytelling, and I currently live in Orlando, Florida.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for the intro, learners. I hope you're in for the ride with us. And everyone out there who's watching, thank you for joining us once again. So, Waldek, our learners have already, they've had a cool chat with Isabella, who's from the Teams product team, and Dan and Burke, at the top gave us a great demo on a complex enterprise app. It's a scenario that boosts productivity for a sales team in a CRM style app. We also just before this heard from Tomomi and Aicha, who gave us a cool rundown of what a Teams app actually is. And what are the nuances and the different types of areas of development, you can try and people can try out. But a little learner buddy told me that they really want to know what we are really going to talk about and show today. So why don't you give us a bit of an essence of what we're really going to talk about for the next few minutes in our segment?
Sure. So in a gist, right? Like we learned, there are multiple types of apps you can build for Teams. You can build a bot, you can build a tab. Right, so in this segment, we'll talk about how you would bring existing web app, bring that into Teams as a tab.
So why don't we kind of dive into it straight away, Waldek? Where would somebody, let's assume we take the app that we saw an example of earlier on, and both you and I, and I'm sure a lot of people online, have built an app like that or something similar in the past. So where would somebody start? Why is it important to think about a few things that matter when you're building for Microsoft 365 platform and the opportunity of reaching 115 million daily active users? How would somebody start? Where would they go?
Right. So I guess there are a few angles from which you can start, and the one that I choose often is auth. Auth, we all know it, right? So auth is probably the hardest part of dev because until you can authenticate, you can't really do anything. None of these APIs are anonymous, right? So until you can connect to Microsoft Graph or to get the data, you need to authenticate, right? So that is the first step you need to do. And for some folks so is it harder to do a regex, compute time zones, or do auth, right? So I say, it takes a few things to get right, but it is that very first step that empowers you to really make use of the accounts you already do for that you already have for work, as opposed to having to have post-it notes around your screen with different credentials for every app you use, right? So that is the first step. If you have an app and you want to bring that into Microsoft 365, I would say the first step, ensure that you can use your work account to sign into your app.
Look, I think that itself makes me excited because I think I've sort of fallen into the trap of building some fake username password databases just to test things out. So you're telling me that I've been not following best practice for a long time. So Waldek, we've seen a few demos about the app before. So where should somebody start? Let's assume a developer has an app, or organization has an app that solves a business problem for them. Where would be the first place? What would be the first thing? What's the big force enabler that they should enable when they try and bring that app to Microsoft 365 or Teams? Let's talk about that. Let's see it.
Absolutely. So when you have an app, right? I mean, that app is not available to everybody anonymously, right? Because it has access to your customer data, orders, right? So there's always this first step. You have to authenticate. So how do you, Barnam, solve auth? Like, how do you build auth in your apps?
That's a funny question, because I remember from a conversation we were having before that I've not been doing. You've been greatly pointing out that I've not been doing best practice, where for random tests I've been generating username and password and putting that in a JSON file and trying to do random things. I used to be a machine learning guy, and that's how I did a lot of things. So can you show me what the best practice needs to be, and why Microsoft 365, why the Microsoft Graph, why Teams, auth, and why Active Directory is really where I should be investing more time in, and what our developers really get as an inherent capability within the platform?
Sure. So it's like whenever you build a web app, like you probably have exactly what you see now on a screen, right? You have a login page that asks you to provide either login name or email and password, right? And then you enter that, and like you will with that authenticate to the app. So you will get access to all info that you have stored in the app. In our case, customers and orders. And in this case, like you need a separate set of credentials for this app, and chances are that for every other app you use, you will have different set. At the end of the day, your monitor is filled with post-its or like December 2020_1 exclamation mark, so like you try to like create more credentials that you can keep in mind for different apps, right? And that just at scale doesn't work. Plus, it just doesn't make sense, because you already have one account. You have one account that's used for your Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. So why not use the same account to log into your line of business apps, right? So that is exactly...
Excites me. Tell me more, Waldek.
Exactly. So like for me, when you think about bringing your LOB apps to Microsoft 365, like that is the first step. Ensure that users can use their work account and sign in with the same account that they use everywhere else into your LOB app. And the experience is very much the same, right? So you come here to a login page, and you see a login option, but there is no more login form in here, because at this stage, you as a dev, you're not building the auth mechanism by yourself. You don't need to have database with usernames and passwords, hashes, password recoveries, reminders, and whatnot. Like all of that is going away, because now you choose to buy into or to actually use Azure Active Directory, which you already have available, right? So in here, imagine that we refactored this app, and we want to use AAD, as it's called for short, to authenticate in this app with your work account. Right, so here you will click login, and in here you see a login form, but that login form is coming from Azure Active Directory. This is not a login form that you would build in your app. You get this for free, right? And in there, you will enter the same email that you use for work, password that belongs to it, right? And with that, you get immediate access to this app. Right, so you still have access to customers, orders, and whatnot, but none of the auth part, like you need to build by yourself, and that saves you a lot of time. Not to mention, you get for free things like multi-factor auth, like the ability to also authenticate with your phone, or things like access that policy, right? That your company can say you can only access this app from a laptop that we as a company own and not from your own. right? So these are all the different things you get for free.
This every time I speak to the friends who work in different companies or building apps, very much like this. And I know we've talked about this before, but every time I say that, hey, using Azure Active Directory, which for those of you who don't know, underpins pretty much all of the authentication for pretty much everything that Microsoft does, especially in the cloud, and it's almost the default the default identity management platform that a lot of enterprises across the globe use. So the ability for a startup or anybody who's building an app or an ISV to actually just quickly integrate with Azure Active Directory and utilize the baseline capability of identity and access management that automatically makes them able to plug in directly into the enterprise identities that exist for millions and millions of people who work in these large and different size companies. That is a big force multiplier that kind of opens a lot of doors for these companies as well. So this is what really excites me. And I think devs who are watching us or watching this should definitely go and try and make sure that their apps are able to quickly plug into an enterprise identity graph.
Absolutely. And I guess maybe this is also a time for us to ask folks that we have with us, like, what kind of, like, when you build apps, do you build your own auth, or do you try to tap into systems that are already there?
Well, I guess it all depends on what type of app you're writing, right? I mean, if you're writing a standalone web application that's not tied to your organization, then you're definitely going to have to retrofit this to that scenario if you're going to bring it into Teams. But it all depends on my target audience. If I'm working for the enterprise, I'm probably going to go as close to AAD or some type of centralized auth as I can get. If I'm standing up my own, I don't know, selling widgets as I moonlight, then I'm not going to. I'm going to use Forms authentication and roll it myself.
Yeah, cool.
So
most of the applications at large enterprises you already have got some kind of authentication store, as Donovan was saying. So a lot of places that I've worked or consulted at or have taught with, it's not optional to use a new auth store. You have to integrate with whatever's there, and quite often it's AD.
Yeah, thanks, John and Donovan. I mean, that's exactly what I think it excites devs when we speak about this. Even and then when we talk about bringing this into Teams, that's where we want to go next. Waldek, we've just discussed why it's such a huge force multiplier to be able to plug in, integrate, and utilize the identities and access management and all the policies that already exist, and basically the goodness of identity management, and utilize that in an app. But then now, how do we sort of bring that into an experience where the users, Teams, 115 million daily active users. This is pretty much well and truly becoming the operating system of work for a lot of us. We're only able to do something like this, or we're conversing across time zones, across global multi-thousand-mile distances, primarily because of an environment like this. So, when somebody talks about bringing their app into Teams, where would they start? How do they go about it? And integrate with the goodness of Teams. So let's talk about that a little bit, Waldek.
The first step, the easiest step to bring your app is to build it as a tab, because that brings the whole app as is, with as little work as you can do, right? And that will make the whole app available within the context of Teams, right? So here, like what you see now on the screen is like channel discussions in Teams directly. And here on the left-hand side, we now launch our app that has been exposed into Teams. You see now on the screen that we have access to all customers, we can view orders, so we have access to the whole app, but we are still in Teams. People don't need to go into a separate bookmark, browser tab that they have, switch back and forth, no matter where they are in Teams, right? Because we now chose to build this app as personal Teams app, and that means that app is available to users no matter where in Teams they are, whether they are in files or channels. They can quickly access this app directly from the left rail and open that directly within the context of their work, meaning less switching back and forth. And also, again, because we chose the first step to use AAD for auth, they don't need to authenticate. And we will go more in depth about what you have to do exactly to have that single sign-on experience for your app, exposing Teams to make it really seamless for people to use your app.
Yeah, I have a question about the way that you're
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you have a web application that you're going to port, but we're still going to leave it as a web application for those outside of Teams. So right now I'm noticing that there's a logout button on there. Is there a way for me to know if I'm running inside the context of Teams or if I'm running in the web proper, so that I can maybe change the theme that I'm using or remove some of the Chrome that I have? Because I don't necessarily need a logout button if I'm actually SSO inside of Teams, right?
Yes, that makes sense. Like that is a perfect thing that you would actually do, right? So we use that to do SSO in Teams. So if you open this app in context of Teams, we know it, right? So we can tap into your identity that is exposed to us through Teams. If you don't use this app in context of Teams, if you just go to a URL bookmark because you are not in Teams, well, then there is no context of Teams, and that is given to you. Like, you can access that in your app, and as you say, you can adjust the UI UX of your app based on the fact whether you are inside Teams or not.
Awesome.
So you're saying, Waldek, basically the fact that we enable the ability to use single sign-on through Teams, where it's a fully seamless experience. You can actually get rid of the Chrome that doesn't make sense here, and just utilize the best bits of the app that really make sense in the context of that user or that pane or that tab, right?
Exactly.
Actually, come to think of it, like, folks who are watching, like, you don't necessarily have to actually bring the whole app into Teams. There are a lot of different parts or different types of apps that were discussed earlier on, and you hear more about later. Like, it may make sense just to bring a bot experience here. It may make sense just to build adaptive cards into chats, which allow people to interact with parts of an app or parts of a database or parts of an interaction in a full-on scenario of building a solution for a business outcome. So what we're showing here is how to integrate a very visual application in a tab-like environment. Waldek, I just want to change gears a little bit. We've talked about this before, and and every time I speak to someone who hasn't experienced Teams development so far, I tell them that, hey, you know what? You can make your existing web app really easily available on Teams through something which is actually quite trivial to actually do, but very powerful in its sense, which is just having a manifest that gets has all the parameters and gets uploaded, and then suddenly your web app, which lives on a browser for most people who are using it in their browsers, suddenly becomes a Teams app and is available on devices with Teams auth and everything. So can we just talk about the manifest and the power of it a little bit?
So basically, in other words, so there was like a really long preamble to ask, like, show me code. All right, cool. Right, so the app you have seen, like this is the project that we have in VS Code, and in that we have two parts, right? So first we have the web app itself, which is built in Angular. So this is just like nothing else than an Angular web app with all its controllers, modules. There's also a little bit API there, but this is just like nothing more than an Angular app, right? Built with tooling that you would know in Angular. And then we have this another bit that we have added specifically for Teams. And the key part is, Barnam, you mentioned the manifest. So the manifest is a file that describes the shape of your app and says, okay, so this is my app. It has a name, icon, and it has either tabs or bot and whatnot. So these are the different things that you would include in manifest. And since it's just a file, like, you could add that in VI or Vim. Like, I never can remember how to exit it, so I stay away from that. But there's also tooling that we offer, right? So we have Teams Toolkit for VS and VS Code. We have Yo Teams, right? That allows you to use the same experience that you would use to create any other new web app.
So developers not actually building this from scratch, right? So there's what the experience is pretty much, hey, here's my app. Yeah, and we have tooling that really enables you to like generate what is the wrapper that makes that app pretty much behave as an inherent extension of the capabilities of Teams. So it's not a jarring experience to the user, right?
Absolutely, right? And we have tooling that goes all the way from command line that you might know from other apps to through more wizard-based experience that you would visually go through, follow step by step, and then you end up with a working manifest and an app.
Cool. Waldek, again, just changing gears a little bit for folks like myself, who are stuck at home in lockdown. This whole 2020 has been a very tough year, and we've not actually been able to meet as a team. We work across the globe, and it's been quite challenging. So one of the things we've tried to do, obviously, at Microsoft is to make our collaboration software as real as possible and try and replicate the same experience as trying to be in a team, in the same room and collaborate as much as we can. And you told me that the best collaboration environment that one can actually work in is in front of a whiteboard. So in that notion, I know there's something new that the team's product team has launched, which some of it has already gone live and some of it is coming live very soon, which is the meetings extensibility. So we're not going to show meetings extensibility today, but let's talk about meetings extensibility a little bit, Waldek.
To me, there is nothing better than having the ability to stand together with someone next to a whiteboard and chalk and talk, right? Like draw things, because I think visually, I think in pictures. So I need to see things to really grasp them. And like typically up until now, like you would have a call with somebody and you would talk about things, but then like you would draw something else where you would try to share screen where somebody will like kind of draw stick figures in paint. Like that doesn't work, right? So like what if we can improve that experience?
And so basically, you're saying that somebody who's building an app today, they could build an app which could be a web app in itself, could be a Teams tab app, but you can actually go into a Teams meeting and attach an app to a meeting where instead of doing a screen share and showing somebody what you're doing on a sort of a dumb video screen, you're actually interacting live with a rich app, right?
Absolutely. And that app, so imagine our CRM. Like with that, you will get access to orders and everybody can interact with them live, right? So if you do a change, I can do the change too. I don't need you to tell you, like, Barnam, can you go a little left? No, the other left. Like, can you move this order? No. So we can truly collaborate in a meeting on the same data. And for a part, like imagine that these apps are powered by Fluid Framework, right? Like framework that truly allows real-time collaboration.
So I have a question. You were sort of saying that you could have these apps be in multiple different places. So you're saying you would use this manifest to define all the different places where your app could then show up. So if your app could be used in a meeting or could be a tab or might be better off as a personal app, you can just configure multiple different entry points right in this manifest?
That is exactly right. So inside a manifest, you create a manifest for your app. And in there, you can list all the different shapes in which your app is exposed into Teams. So as you said, it can be a tab, it can be bot, meeting extension, or an app that is available in meetings. So all these different places, you would then list inside a manifest.
This is the beauty of actually parameterizing so much of it and making it available in a manifest, right? So so we can do these kind of scenarios where it could be a sidebar app, it could be a multi-user, multi-thread app, and being able to collaborate in a meeting live, this is what excites me about this. Personally, we do a lot of meetings here at Microsoft, and I'm sure everybody watching does too many meetings already. So what excites me about this is basically we don't have to have meetings about what we did in the past. So the agenda is not about reviewing the past or planning the future. the agenda could actually be about getting stuff done in the present and actually doing things together. And that's, in the interest of learn together, I think it's about build and do together as well. And that's what sort of really excites me about this in-meeting extensibility capability that's coming to Teams. So Waldek, we're at at time with our segment. So any closing thoughts on this that you have that you want the learners to take away?
Absolutely. So I would encourage everybody to give this a try. Like if you have an app, right? No matter if it's Hello World or if it's CRM or anything else you might have built in the past, like really give it a try. Try to have that app show up in Teams, because the moment you will see it, you will start thinking about what are the different things you could do more with that, because now your app is available to users where they already are. And we have a learning pad that will take you step by step, like explaining you the basics, like how you build different apps, what you can do, all the way to SSO and the very detailed things you have to do for auth. So I would really encourage you, give this a try, and then when you do, tell us back what you think of it, where we can improve.
Cool. So for those of you interested, if you want more information about what we shared in today's session, you can go to aka.ms/learn together, which is also the site for this particular event. But also, if you want to learn about that learn path, which Waldek was speaking about, where we really go through in depth and teach you how to actually get started and how to get to an outcome of actually having your first Teams app ready to go, then you can go to aka.ms/dev apps for Teams and actually go and try it out. So I encourage you, as Waldek said, to go try it out. And thank you, learners, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And I want to, at this point, throw back to the studio. Back to you, Christina.